Because of the following special program, Mr. Merlin will not be presented this evening.
Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners.
Hi, I'm Alex Ross.
The two pieces are sort of a type. They're both kind of recreations of artwork that existed in the 90s. In fact, this piece here for the Avengers is in most ways a recreation or a tribute to George Perez's poster version from the mid-90s, where he did a shot that featured in it a figure of Captain America that was very similar to what I've done here, positioning of the Vision or positioning of Hawkeye, and I believe a few other elements are very similar to that piece, and it's consciously so. I was building off that inspiration, but I kind of refitted my design to fill out bigger shots of the figures so that I was making a wider composition and getting in a lot of the same characters, but still not quite as many as what George himself did, because George's thing was always to try and get in the maximum amount of content into pieces that he did.
Welcome back, everybody. It's time again for another Oh Yeah Trek Watch, although while we are wrapping up our Trek coverage until whenever Discovery decides to drop, we will be back with more sci-fi and other fantasy TV talk, because lots of stuff coming up this month in November. John, Franco, Wayne, Mitch, hello, everybody.
Hi.
Greetings.
So this final episode, thought it was pretty good, and I thought that really wrapped up probably the best season, I think, of Lower Decks so far. I would say I liked the episode. I liked the season. Thoughts?
Yeah, it was good. So that's the end of the show. We all like it. We all agree. End of
Good
show.
night, everybody.
Mariner had a really good story arc.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. I mean, again.
Well, I mean, come on. Compared to everything else in all the other seasons.
No, that's fair. That's fair. And, I heard Mike McMahon on The Seventh Rule, which is Cirroc Lofton's podcast, Jake Sisko. And the previous Mike McMahon interview I heard, he didn't sound sure that there was going to be a fifth season. Well, good news, I guess. And I would imagine the combination of the ability to do animation even during the strike probably helps. And also, I would assume that numbers, viewers for Lower Decks is among the better new Trek results. So that's why we will get at least a fifth season.
Yeah, I've read in current interviews that he said, they're guaranteed a fifth, not a sixth.
Well, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, again, let's see what else is coming. And also, I got to be honest, I am so either way. If they want to keep going, great. After 5, if they don't, 5 seasons, well done, job well done.
Mm-hmm.
You got nothing to complain about. And I'd be honest, I'd rather see other ideas explored.
Yeah, it was on the Ready. I watched the Ready Room with Will Wheaton. Jerry O'Connell was the guest.
Will Wheaton.
And I can't think of the woman's name that plays Mariner's mom. But they talked about
Dawn Lewis.
Dawn Lewis?
Yeah.
Oh, they talked about a fifth season and things to look forward to. So I couldn't tell anymore when this was filmed. Like, was this before the strike, after the strike, 2 weeks ago, 30 minutes ago, 2 a.m.? I don't know.
Well, but given that it's animation, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but they were talking about like they knew something. So
yeah, but it is interesting that they only did a season-long wrap-up Lower Decks and not every week. And again, maybe sensitive to the strike. I have no idea. Yeah. But beyond doing Lower Decks, we did see the flashback
Mm-hmm.
which featured Wesley and Will Wheaton. And also, man, I learned from this most recent Mike McMahon interview that Cito, she hadn't acted in years,
Mm-hmm.
and they tracked her down specifically to do this, and she even brought her daughter in for the voice session and everything. And it's that's cool. That's, unlike Picard, where they make a big deal about Bruce Maddox, Measure of a Man, and how important he was to season 1. And that guy still is around and teaches acting in LA. So it would not have been that hard to track him down to find him. But it's like, all right, now let's get this guy to be Bruce Maddox. And it's like, all right, whatever. I'm sure he would have been happy to do it. But although it kind of, the new guy, well, it's not the new guy's fault, but they kind of screwed up Maddox on Picard, in my opinion. And also just everything, Picard, other than season 3. Throw it all.
Can you put that graphic back up real quick with the
of the cadets? Sure, of Nova Squad.
Nick Locarno looks just like Tom Paris, man. I don't know who's drawing this shit, but looks just like him.
Okay.
He has an uncanny resemblance. He looks just
He
like
does, right? Same face, same everything.
Yeah, Rutherford says so.
Yeah,
Yep.
he said so.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, the one problem I had with that episode is
Please.
how does Nick Locarno, drummed out of the service, suddenly, become so knowledgeable that he's running this alien tech and doing all this stuff? And I'm like, wait.
Because in that group of Nova Corps, he was a superstar.
Nova Corps, no, that's Marvel. He was in Delta Squad.
Nova. It's Nova Squad, actually.
Nova
Squad.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Nova Corps. I don't know anymore.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There was one part I'm like, did I miss what
He
they
went
explained?
into the Merchant Marines.
Hey, don't knock the Merchant Marines, buddy. But I was saying, is there a way did they say how he acquired all this alien tech?
That's
Like
how
he
I would
knew-
assume it, is that he basically became a pilot for hire.
He knew how to run it all? Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
I legitimate beef, Mitch. But
No, it wasn't like gonna take away from it, but at the end of it, I'm like, and you know what?
question.
I didn't think he was. I mean, I know he was a dick in school and what he did was wrong and all that, but they've already resolved that way back in Next Gen. His ultimate fate, I thought that was kind of dark because I didn't think he was that bad a kid. You know what I'm saying? At the end, when it's like, deposit 2 more latinums to do, I thought that was funny. That
Well,
was a good
Yeah,
punch.
that was that. I laughed at that actually.
Yeah, I did.
That they put a paywall on the bomb.
Yeah.
The rest of Nova Squad got held back a year, but Nick Nick accepted full responsibility as leader, and he was drummed out. So again, obviously Starfleet felt it was a little more serious than just a slap on the wrist to fully expel him.
Yeah.
And again, it caused the death of Josh Albert. So
I know, but when he gets blown to bits at the end, I was like, yeah, okay, maybe could have got away.
maybe he got away. Who knows?
Maybe.
I liked, on the one hand, I liked that the Genesis device was there.
The
It was
first
a little,
officer.
yeah, that was a little too cute for me. Mariner making the device her first officer. Whatever.
Oh, that was funny.
Yeah, that's fine. Good for you. It's fine. Again, guys,
I think your resentment over the seasons have just soured you.
He soured you.
Again,
So negative.
I fully admit it. I don't like Mariner. I
thought this
period.
season she redeemed herself.
Yeah.
Well, we got, as I said last week, we got a better explanation of why she is the way she is. I accept that. We'll see what kind of growth, and McMahon even spoke about all the major characters and said, we've seen growth of all of them. We'll see how that impacts them. But at the end of the day, they will stay true to their characters. And in fact, they made a reference to, hey, drinks on me. And Butler's like, yeah, it's still you, and it's like, okay,
I actually thought it was going to end with her getting demoted for following or not following orders because, there was like a little thing going on, but then it turns out to be, it's all about, what's the Orion girl's name? Tendi. That's what the cliffhanger was. I literally thought Starfleet was going to come up in the bar at the end and say, oh, by the way, you're demoted for your actions. And that would give her what she wanted, which is not to be a junior level, whatever, lieutenant and back to where she started. I'm like,
I'm
oh,
glad they didn't do the predictable. My issue with the episode is why is Boimler in charge? Why is he in the captain's seat?
I don't know. I really
Because
don't know.
oh,
what
yeah.
I mean, he's so far down the totem pole. There's nobody else above him that would
It
take
could be
the.
because of his experience on the Titan.
Yeah.
Mm,
I never noticed that girl was a Trill until you just put that graphic up. I didn't catch that. That's like little subtle stuff. See her?
Yeah.
Yep.
With the spots?
Sure.
Good.
That's the girl that Rutherford was trying to get a date with, and then when his evil persona took over,
Yeah.
he totally like went too far and propositioned her, and she ran
Gotcha.
away crying and everything. So yeah, no, they do a good job of that stuff. Well, even how about the other cameo this week, Goodgie,
Mhm.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
version
Yeah.
of Badgie and everything. And I don't know, is that oh, I forget her name, the engineer from Next Generation,
Oh.
crush on Geordi.
Well,
I don't know. I don't know.
That's pushing it.
My buddy John Price, I give him credit because everyone is like, how does that work? That Mariner was a cadet, and you see her here in the cadet shot, with the next gen cadets.
Mm.
Like, well, then how old is she?
How old that? Yeah, I thought that.
I
too.
did read an article on it. They figure her age around 31.
Right, which is fine. That's
Well,
fine. And it
Nick
kind of
Arnold looks pretty old for 31, man.
Yeah. Well, they
Well-
also said that she was younger than they were.
Yeah.
she's a
Younger?
year behind. She was a year behind Nova Squad, and looked up to them. But also, this explains too all the different
Experiences.
yes, that she had prior to being on the Cerritos. So yeah, fine. I mean, again, I was going to roll with it, but I'm glad that they're like, no, actually X, Y, and Z. And unlike some of the eye-rolling explanations of, well, no, if you do this, it's like, no, that makes sense. And especially John Price. John writes excellent essays at medium.org or whatever Medium is, that platform. And so does Larry Young. He does Dork Court over there. But John is a clear-eyed critic who has had problems with New Trek in general. He loves Lower Decks a lot more than I do. And no, I give him credit. And he really is like a big ultra nerd about ship design, equipment design, everything else. So he really is like looking with a very critical eye. And no, that was great that he did that, because truly I was like, I don't see how this works. So
Yeah.
that's cool. No, that's good. That's good. And man, I'll tell you, for the season in general, I love Taval or whatever. Talen?
Really?
The Vulcan, right?
Okay.
Yeah, the Vulcan.
Yeah.
Great addition. I think she's fantastic. I think she's like the new most valuable player. And it's a great counterbalance. They know how to write Vulcan dialogue. And you buy her performance, bless you. And yeah, you buy it. I don't know. I thought she was terrific. Mario had a comment online and said that he thought that the ending was rushed. I didn't feel that way. I thought that episode was well paced, and I like how Tendi, when it comes to the Orions, it asserts herself.
I think Tendy's going to take over the family business.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, like McMahon even said, and maybe it's a little spoilery for season 5. He's like, "Oh no, don't worry. You know, she'll be back on the Cerritos." But yeah, that's great.
Yeah, no, I expect her to be back. But you seen her as soon as they warped away from the Cerritos, her face changed to like she's in full Orion mode.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
maybe that's why they got the Vulcan character on there, because if they write her off, you get the 4 characters. You need like that little balance.
Yeah, but she's one of the main characters. I'm sure they would bring her back.
No, they're not writing her off. They
it's like when Boimler was on the Titan, and we saw a lot of Titan scenes while he was there.
Mm-hmm.
They got rid of Tilly. You never know what's going to happen.
That's a different show.
I know, but it's also.
No, I think Noelle is there to stay. I really do. I think Noelle Wells.
I really have done a 180 on this show. At the very beginning of this season 1, I was like, no. There are still some moments that catch me like, oh, come on. But I really like this show. It has jumped leaps and bounds over the Orville for me.
Okay.
because they were on the same kind of level for me for a while.
Really?
Yeah, they were. It was not good at the beginning, but it's really unlike the Orville, which I hated all 4 seasons. This one I've come to like by the end of 4 seasons. It's changed me around.
But
There's only 3, but I love
Franco,
it.
it
Same
felt like
difference.
4.
It felt like 8 actually.
You know what's odd though? Remember they all hated Mariner. Was it last year when they went behind the scenes into that video and she talked about everybody on the ship and everybody hated her? And
Yes.
then this episode, the mom puts it out there like, I'm going to defy orders and who's with me to go save her. And then they showed everybody. It was like one of those, ooh, look, they're all coming around. But I'm like, wow, that really changed. Because, I mean, she was like person non grata last year, and now she's everyone's buddy. But
Yeah.
Man.
Again, maybe they're all getting used to her, and then they saw.
It's like us.
Yeah, I think they saw the rest of. I think they saw the rest of her interview footage, and they realized, no, she likes the ship. And
I like that it's taken us 4 years to come around too.
We're
So
just
did
starting
anyone
to pull
else
together.
watch the fight scene from Wrath of Khan and compared the two?
Oh, absolutely. You can see that right away.
Oh,
I
God,
did.
you
I
didn't
watched
have to
that, and then I went into Wrath of Khan. Went straight to the point where Kirk takes the Enterprise into the Nebula.
Yeah.
Were they
just-
totally the same?
Almost. And the musical cues,
Yeah.
everything is very similar.
well,
Like-
and them escaping the Genesis wave as the
Mhm.
planet explodes in the Genesis device.
And even when the ships are like on different planes
Yeah.
crossing each other, they reverse the image in
Yes.
the animation than from the movie.
It's fine. Yeah.
It was great. Oh, I just was like, wow.
No,
See,
again, vision.
I was
I'm
gonna
sorry, Mitch. Go ahead, Mitch.
I was going to say, oh, so what? They finally used callbacks properly as opposed to just hitting you over the head with, hey,
Oh, yeah.
remember this episode? Remember that? Now it's like, oh, we're doing an homage, but we're doing our own version of it. And so it's, they did Star Trek Wrath of Khan better than they did it in the movies when they had to do that remake called Star Trek Into Darkness. Yeah. This was a good remake of
Yeah.
Wrath of Khan, better
No.
than billions of dollars spent on nothing.
Again,
Visual- Visually, all of New Trek, that's not the problem.
No.
Visually, it's exceptional. All of them. Even
Mm.
my hated Discovery. It's like, no, it's very interesting from a visual standpoint. And Lower Decks, and I'm sure I said this last week too, the animators that are doing all the background jokes, they're the stars. They're killing it.
Mhm.
They are killing it. But again, and you're right, Mitch, it's more integral to the story when they do a callback like this rather than just by Riker's beard.
oh yeah, this wasn't a member berry.
Right.
No.
This was part of the story.
Yep. Yeah.
And the Ferengi paywall is still that was
That was
I
cool.
laughed
That
when
was fun.
I heard that.
No, it was good. Again, I like that the Binars had a third person, so now they're Trinars.
Yeah.
I like Darmok's race
Mhm.
being, we saw a bit more of them. And yeah, I'm really glad, Wayne, because I was confused. I thought the ships were destroyed, but they really did underline in this episode that no, the ships were they were okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, he basically said, you can take over your ships, and we're all just one. You don't have to
Yeah.
serve
Yeah.
a superior officer that's an
Yep.
idiot.
Well, and that's consistent for Nick Locarno.
Mhm.
To have that kind of attitude towards authority. I mean, hell, even before he got busted, you could say that obviously he had that attitude to plan the Nova Squad move that they were going to do and everything. So
I like the parrot doctor became the big bird thing. That was out of left field. Did not see that coming. I was like, oh, that's clever. Little
Yeah, it
Dan.
was just a really well structured, well written episode altogether.
You should see who wrote this episode and then look at who, all the previous shows that they've written and see if it's just a new writing team. Or did McMahon write this one? Usually the head guy usually writes the finale.
I'm betting he did, but I'll let our researcher Wayne tell us.
Wayne, look it up. See
Yep.
who wrote this final episode.
But I give him credit, and it's funny because Sirach Lofton and his Canadian co-host, whose name escapes me, the Canadian co-host is like, it was a really big finale, and he goes, well, every season we've done a big finale, and they have, and again they just escalate,
Okay.
The funny
writing
thing is
credits,
when who was it?
the writing credits are Mae Darman and Ben M. Waller.
Oh,
Okay.
I thought it was
Well,
him.
But I know it's a writer's room, so I'm sure Mike had his input. Go ahead, Mitch. Excuse
I
me.
was saying they even did the Mark Twain callback.
Yeah, that was all right.
Back when they were fighting over stuff, like
Yeah.
they can settle this out, and like, fuck, Mark Twain, there it goes again, and they're sitting in the holodeck with it. I'm like,
funny.
man,
Well, I like that they made that joke, like, what is this accomplishing? Well, it works for them type thing.
yeah.
You know? But then later when he saw him and he gave him the evil eye, he goes, "No, we're just getting along whenever we're twaining." So I like that. That's an acronym now. They're
Yeah.
twaining.
But you gotta love the Mark Twain wigs. Mark Wayne, big
Mark
fan.
Twain.
He does the knockoff Mark Twain stories. Huckleberry Fond, I think, is one of his stories and everything.
Oh,
No, I thought that was okay. I mean, that's the thing. I give them credit. 4 seasons in, they've established callbacks that they can do. That again, if you've been following the show, you'll like, or even if you are new to this show, but also old Star Trek, you'll get the Mark Twain reference and everything. But yeah, I thought it was again, it's I think it's been a slow burn. I do think that they've made a more effort to give us storylines about everybody beyond Mariner, and now we know these people a lot better. And yeah, Talin's excellent, man.
I still know this crew, even the secondary characters, which are the main crew. I know them better than the crew of the Discovery.
Yeah.
and they're 4 seasons in, right?
I know.
Yes, well, we're gonna get season 5, and that's why I forget who a friend I think it might have been Gigantic Jeff this week. He and I were talking, and I said, I'm like, hey, despite my negativity, I am always optimistic. Maybe they learned their lesson. Frakes was very open in terms of the people upstairs looking at Discovery and saying, how about we get away from the weepy crap? This is supposed to be a fun action adventure show. Can we get that, please? And he says, and they did it. Now, again, Frakes is always a cheerleader for New Trek up and down, and that's great. I don't blame him. But that said, we'll see whenever we eventually get Discovery season 5. I don't know.
Yeah.
I want to get I haven't checked yet, but I want to get Patrick Stewart's autobiography on Audible.
I just finished that. Funny you should say that. I got it on Audible, and I just finished it today. I was walking the dog, and I listened to it, and there's like Trek. Geez, the whole second half of it is all his life with Star Trek and everything. So very good, actually. And speaking of Jonathan Frakes, funniest guy. I mean, I met him in person at Terrificon this year, and I knew it firsthand. But when you hear all the backstories and all the behind-the-scenes stuff, this guy's a kidder. I like this guy. Frakes has always got the sense of humor. He doesn't get it too serious. When Patrick Stewart was like too full of himself being a Shakespearean actor, it's like, yo, bro, dial it back. Come on. We're doing weekly TV shows here in the States. We don't go for that, like, royal company of whatever the hell he was in there. The British.
I appreciate the private messages, but just say it. You're the one that's coming up with all this information. Please take credit.
That's okay. For
Do it.
all right, for May, she wrote 2 episodes of Solar Opposites and Lower Decks, and that's her credits.
That's great. That's great. Solar Opposites is amazing, and it doesn't have the preconceived notions that we would have for a Trek show. And also, they can go further, just like Rick and Morty can go further.
But you know what? Now that you mentioned the Picard thing, the book, the Patrick Stewart, I was just thinking, because there's a whole thing in there about Gene Roddenberry and him not getting along. What do you think if you compared Lower Decks to Gene Roddenberry's whole philosophy about, characters can't have any, negative, they can't fight. That's not even on this planet. There's no Lower Decks Gene Roddenberry connection at all. I mean, the aliens, everything's different. It's like up on top. You know what I mean? It's like they threw that guy's stuff out the window years ago. I guess they don't really follow it as much.
But I really feel. Go ahead.
So, do you think Discovery is more closer to a Gene Roddenberry type of story than anything we've seen? Now that I think about it,
But Roddenberry did have conflicts with the Klingons and the Romulans. The
Yeah,
conflict
but-
was always there. It's just
he didn't
not
like
conflict
characters
within
fighting
the
with each other.
Federation.
Yeah, he didn't want it within the humans. That's what he's like.
Right,
involved.
right.
But that said, I do believe, especially once Deep Space Nine took root, and especially that after Gene's passing, that there was a little bit of bending to allow for things like that, and also even in slightly in Next Gen, though not involving the crew. The crew certainly was always in love with each other, but yeah, that's where I would slightly disagree with Roddenberry, and it's almost unrealistic, and it is kind of a very generic. Well, in the future, all our petty differences, and I do believe that a lot of them will go away as our civilization has progressed. I think we have a long way to go, and we keep sadly proving it with all of our missteps in the current climate. But that said, I do have ambition and hope that we will eventually settle. But yeah, I mean, again, if you don't have conflict, you don't have story.
Yeah, I know. No, but no, at the end, in the end of the book, Patrick Stewart says he does realize that if it wasn't for Roddenberry's initial, concept of coming up with, Captain Picard and Number One and, Troy and all that stuff, even though he wanted Troy to wear like go-go dresses and go-go boots and mini skirts, and he was still thinking it was 1967 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Without him being the impetus for all this stuff, there wouldn't be a Next Generation. There wouldn't be all that. So he goes, at the end, he's got to give him credit where credit's due because he did have the foresight.
Yeah.
But all these shows that we watch, Discovery, Lower Decks, and all the rest of it, I'm like, how far have they really gone from it? I mean,
I think I'm going to push back and disagree with you a little bit because although, yes, Roddenberry is Star Trek and synonymous with Star Trek, the writers on his show had a lot to do with those characters and what happened, and they don't get enough credit. So when you talk about future shows like Next Generation and stuff like that, and even though Next Generation had Roddenberry attached to it at the beginning, they'd really kind of shuttled him over to the side on that one because he was screwing up right and left. He was like making things worse for everybody.
But if you read, I'm sorry, Mitch. If you read interviews with the writers, they all say Rick Berman was the Roddenberry whisperer, and not well, I forget that's not the right comparison. That he maintained a lot of Roddenberry's edicts, and are like, no, Gene wouldn't let you do this. And it was frustrating for the Ron Moores and the Brandon Bragas and Renee Archeva and then some of the other great Next Gen writers. But I agree with you too, Franco, when it comes to Dorothy Fontana, Gene Kuhn, all those, Theodore Sturgeon, Harlan Ellison, a lot of other writers that were working during the
if you watch those documentaries and stuff like that, he would like rewrite a lot of stuff and then say
stuff like that. That's mentioned in the book.
Read Harlan Ellison's City on the Edge of Forever.
Right.
And read IDW's adaptation of Harlan's original idea, which is vastly different.
Oh, yeah. Well, he said there's cringeworthy episodes when you look back when Roddenberry was still, he loved The Naked Now, because it was a redo of his Naked Time, from the old show. He loved the third or fourth episode that Patrick Stewart says it's you can't even watch it. It's where
Code of Honor,
where they go on a planet and there's this like African American alien race and they grab Denise Crosby, Tasha Yar, and she has to fight the guy's wife. And he's like, what is this? It's like it's movie from the 30s or something, like a Tarzan. It's not what.
Well, there's the female-dominated planet where Riker is bare-chested and has the on his nipple. There's Justice, where even Wesley, it's basically like it's like Risa was, but like just pleasure all the time, and they're all scantily clad. And there's even a girl that's age appropriate for Wesley.
Yeah,
in a very safe way, but coming on to him. And it's just like, Gene was a perv. Let's just.
Oh yeah, they said about the uniforms too. He wanted the uniforms to look the way they did, even though they were like really clingy and you could see the freaking nuts and everything. And they're like, "What are you doing, buddy?" He's like, "No, they got to look like this in the future." And they're like, "No." And then in the second and third season, they changed the costume so it's a two-piece and not that jumpsuit thing. But it's really weird, the stuff that Roddenberry got hung up about.
Well, I would say that Roddenberry more or less lost control too. Would have been during the animated series, because if you look at the stories in the animated series, they strayed farther from what Roddenberry would have wanted. And again, it was because it's the old Star Trek writers. Basically, I think they had almost carte blanche. Working with Filmation, that they didn't have the influence, they didn't have the rewrites that Roddenberry would have done on their scripts.
But I bet you if he would have never done what Discovery did with the Federation by making it break up. I guess it's interesting story, like Franco said. You got to have conflict on that. But the whole idea of the Federation falling apart like it does 1,000 years from now, that would never fly. Because
it does in a Roddenberry universe. Because if you take Andromeda, that's what happened to to that particular type of union of planets. It fell apart in the future.
Well, but Wayne, I would argue, unless it is proven that the ideas of Andromeda and Earth's final conflict were originally Trek ideas, I would say, well, now I'm writing something different where things do fall apart in the future.
I'm saying, but for Roddenberry to write something like that, he could probably apply it to the Trek aspect.
Wayne, excuse me. I always do this. I always want to admonish one and talk about the other. Forgive me, guys. Wayne, I would point out that Roddenberry wrote a lot of television before and after Star Trek, and he is certainly capable of writing things that go against the Trek philosophy. So
I'm just saying he just likes to rehash stuff.
Well, sure. Yeah. Oh no,
it wouldn't shock me if he wouldn't have had that type of idea for Star Trek.
And again, I would really this is where you'd love to talk to Majel and see, because and really what was the intent, and really, maybe again, because you could see Andromeda as well. If I were still in charge of Star Trek, Paramount owns it. I can't do what I want. In fact, I've been frustrated because every subsequent movie since the original series, I give my notes and they're basically ignored. So, I mean, no, there is definitely evidence of that. I don't know. I really don't know.
It's interesting you say that. Why did they ignore him so much? Because they were so outlandish and they knew they weren't going to be bankable. Like they can't make a successful show with this guy's like bizarre hippie philosophies. Or I mean, there had to be something that they threw out.
Yeah, it's kind of a studio system you're dealing with, which is not that far off from a corporate system. And you've worked with people who are a pain in the ass, haven't you?
Well,
right now, yeah, sure.
But Disney Star Wars.
I mean,
you know what? Though I was going to say the difference between, like you just mentioned, Star Wars is Lucas was his own company. He had his own.
No, he had his own company. Then he sold it to Disney.
Yeah, I know, but even I'm saying that's why he had to do what he did, because nobody's going to tell him no. So he could do the prequels. He could do the midi-chlorians where you're like, what the hell is this? And then you see what happens when the corporate gets a hold of it. When Disney, they just.
Read
it's like whatever.
If you gave a damn to read it, read Gene's novelization of the motion picture, and he puts in so much weird, literally sexual crap.
Where did you see this? I read
it. It's out there. Oh no, you can buy it. I bought it back when I was a kid in 1979 or 80.
I want to get the Audible version now.
I don't know if there is one. But I bought it again when they.
No, you know what? You're right, Tom. Because I have literally right behind me. I have that record album where Roddenberry, the Inside Trek, it's got that blueprint.
I love that album.
I have it here.
It's on YouTube. Everybody, if there's one here, go ahead. Yes.
But he's talking. I think Mark Leonard, and they're talking about he's supposed to be Sarek, and he's interviewing him as Sarek, and he's talking about Spock in the womb. And what his feelings were. I'm like, this is getting. I remember listening to this as a kid. I was like 9 years old. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? But you're right.
I have weird feelings, Mom.
I don't know what he's talking about, Mom. He's talking about Amanda Spock's mom's.
Well, when the Vulcan penis gets hard, as you well know, Sarek.
Easy. But no, I mean, for some guy that was such a pioneer and looked upon as, the father of Star Trek, he's a little freaking weird, huh?
Yeah.
Well, it was a weirdie.
It was good timing. It was right in the midst of communes and positive thinking and real love, and all it did was reinforce his own view of himself, where thousands of these fans are like, oh my god, Roddenberry, you're such a genius, your philosophy is so great. And man, he lapped it up like chocolate ice cream. He's like, oh my god, this is fantastic. Well,
but I mean, considering his background, it's weird that he came from that, because he's a cop, he was in the service, he was like the airplane pilot. I mean, he's very straight-laced, father knows best type of guy, and then deep down, he's not putting tobacco in his pipe. He's fucking hitting the hash pipe, and he's fucking flipping out. He's like, yeah, baby, free love. Let's go to a couple orgies and listen to some Dylan tonight. You know,
he was drinking and drugging and
People are not as one-dimensional as you make them out to be.
yeah, and casting couch producer and
oh
stuff.
no, I've heard stories since. I mean, when I was a kid, I met the guy, and I'm like, wow, this is like Uncle Walt, Disney type of thing.
Hey, mister, you're a pervert.
And then you find out, you're like, hey man, he was hitting on my mom for God's sakes.
Yeah. There you
Well,
go.
Hey, you want to go where no man has gone before? How about my dressing room? What?
Well, Disney had his demons as well. Stan had
Absolutely.
his demons. I mean, a lot of creative people, and that's
Not everybody can be John Suntress. That's what it is.
God forbid. Why do you think I don't run for public office? Good Lord.
Well, Mitch,
Speaking
you're gonna
about
be happy.
idiosyncrasies and stuff like that, I read recently, and I can't remember where, that there's weird pictures of Walt Disney, like, with like holding
Beating
up
kids.
like his fingers and stuff like that. Because Disney, the corporation, went back and like photoshopped those photos to take out cigarettes.
Isn't that
'Cause they-
ridiculous?
They didn't want him like photograph.
So he's doing a lot of these. Like,
Yeah, so there's a lot of
Exactly.
these, like when he's having a finger like this or something like that. So they photoshopped the cigarettes out of his hand.
they really took the cigarettes out. The guy he died of lung cancer. I mean, the guy was smoking a couple packs a day.
He's still alive somewhere, frozen.
His head
That's
is.
Disney. That's Disney.
Yeah.
And if you
Mitch,
want to get into conspiracy theories, the reason they did they renamed the movie Frozen is so that when you Google it, you don't wind
You
up
don't get
with
Disney. You don't get a picture of Walt Disney like Han Solo. Yeah.
Has anyone read that Variety article about what's wrong with Marvel?
I did.
Tell me, Mitch. Talk about it.
Well, do you want to? Whoa! We're already doing Trek. We're done.
Oh, wait,
jumping.
before you get off
We'll come
track,
back to it. Come
Mitch,
back to it. What else?
Audible has your book,
The
Star Trek:
Patrick-
The Motion Picture.
Oh,
yeah,
there you
there it
go.
is.
Oh, okay. I
So
got
who-
to download.
Who narrates it?
Yeah, who narrates? Because I want to hear the sounds
Oh,
and the
Wait,
moans and
wait
stuff.
for it.
It's
It's
like that
Kate
70s
Mulgrew.
porno movie.
Hey,
The
we
result
can read
was
that.
that these
Is it
supposedly
Shatner?
Oh,
intelligent and flexible minds being sent out by Starfleet could not help but be seduced eventually by the higher philosophies,
Oh, I don't know who
aspirations,
that is.
and consciousness levels being encountered.
I don't know
It's
who that is.
Shatner.
I have always found it amusing that my academy class was the
Yeah, it's
The
Kirk.
person is Robert Petkoff.
Yeah.
He does a lot of Trek book narration.
Oh, I
but
thought
it is the book starts with an essay from James Kirk, and he
Oh.
refers to his love counselor or something like
Yeah.
that, some sort of like sex worker that he
Wow. Yeah.
exactly, man. No, it's like so I'm sure Paramount's like what?
See,
Imagine if he was
but that
around-
makes sense. That makes sense continuity wise as to why McCoy gets him the glasses, because he's going blind eventually.
From enjoying himself too much.
My name
He
is
scribbled too much.
James Tiberius Kirk. Kirk,
Yeah.
because my father and his male forebears followed the old custom of passing along a family identity name. I received James because it was both the name of my father's beloved brother as well as that of my mother's first love instructor.
There you go. My love
Oh,
Love
instructor.
instructor.
Now you know. Now you know they're wrong. Now you know they're
Tiberius,
wrong.
They
Let
call
me
them
show you.
hookers.
as I am forever tired of explaining, was the Roman emperor whose life, for some unfathomable reason, fascinated my grandfather Samuel.
Yeah.
There you
Too
go.
bad it
And
was
it
almost
also-
it was almost James Caligula Kirk.
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
it explains George Kirk Sam. It
That's
explains
right. His middle name was Long Dong. Not many people knew that.
Sam L.
George
Kelsey
Long
Kirk.
Dong Kirk.
We are
But,
here to marry Samuel Long Dong Kirk. George
There's
Samuel.
a new book from Tashin that you might want to read about too, called The Big Book of Long Dong. But anyway, what was I going to tell you about Trek? Oh, so besides Gene Roddenberry, imagine if he was around today, he'd be canceled 6 ways to Sunday.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
The guy wouldn't be able to open his mouth. It'd be like, boom, we're done.
It'd be like J.K. Rowling with Harry Potter. Yeah.
Yeah, and the next scene, I want the sex instructor to talk to this one, but whatever. He had a
Although
good idea. Okay, we'll give him that. He had a good
Listen,
idea.
Yeah. Again, man, you got to separate the art from the person.
I
and
know.
It's
I
like,
know.
and I know
Pretty
you know.
Pretty
I'm
good
just
at
saying-
doing still lifes. Pretty good in his art class, but other than that, nuts.
I'm yelling about the generation, and by the way, including unfortunately Kate Mulgrew, who is shame. And it's like, hey, guess what? You wouldn't have had that 7-year gig if it wasn't for the old perv Shut
Right,
up.
what happened to Kate Mulgrew? What's going on there?
Oh no, she's very well. Gene was X, Y, and Z, and it's like
She never met the guy.
Thank you. Well,
Thank
again,
you. Yeah, she's a hearsay. Yeah.
but the info is out there, and she feels necessary. And again, it's her opinion,
dude.
Fine. But again, it's like, look, every a lot, or I shouldn't say every, a lot of people that have very impressive careers in Hollywood, they have a lot of baggage. I'm
now
sorry.
we can go into the real quick. This ties into the Marvel variety thing. Did you know? Because I did not. Because I watched the making or the Ready Room thing with O'Connell and whatever, I can't think of her name.
Meredith.
But I never knew the actor who's on Loki is the voice of Rutherford until this week. I'm going, wait a minute.
Eugene Corrado.
Yeah, I stopped. I'm like, wait, that's the guy on Loki that plays the guy at the TVA. That's him. Now I like him because I like him on Loki, and I'm like,
I mean, again, when they had the Rutherford bad persona episode, I'm like, okay, I get Rutherford, and I really like Rutherford, and ever since then, it's like, no, they figured him out.
I'm just saying, voice wise, I never put the two together until I was like,
yes,
what?
I understand.
Oh, Eugene, what's his name? Eugene Turno or Tiro?
Starts with a C. Starts with a
Carano.
Carano. There you go. Thanks.
Okay. Anyway, so the Marvel thing. It's not all doom and gloom because sometimes I see these things and I go, dude, this is just all exactly. I'm like, this. Okay, look. Oh, the director of the Marvels movie left the movie before it was finished. Look, that's how most of these big special effects movies are done nowadays. The director does his principal photography, then they go and tinker with it, and they always do last minute. They didn't like throw the whole movie out and start from scratch. They just, we had to fix a little couple effect shots, but that was in there. And then the whole thing about bringing the focus or the theme of the whole article was, is Disney in trouble? Is everything going haywire? And you sit back, you go, all right, I don't think it's as bad as it makes it out to be, but obviously when you're running a $1 billion franchise, you're going to hit bumps in the road, and they've got 30 something movies now. And it was all about that. It's like, well, they're not making money on the streaming. We already talked about that. We know that. And they're like, well, they're going back to it, and they're not going to have so much content on the Disney Plus stuff. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. That's nothing new. But then the thing that kills me is they're like, oh, they're going to bring back Robert Downey Jr. and Scarlett Johansson. I already assumed that when they do the Secret Wars movie, where you pull all the heroes in from all the other storylines, and now that they got the multiverse with Loki, I always thought at one point where we were going to see in a cameo
everybody coming back.
Captain America would be back, Downey Jr. would be back.
Nicolas Cage in the Superman outfit would be back. Everybody would be back.
He's going to be Batman. Who knew? But the thing of it is, the cover story, and then I see the internet explode with all these guys on these YouTube videos, and Marvel's in deep shit. Oh, this is the end of Marvel. They're bringing the death knell, and everyone's freaking out, jumping out windows. I'm like, guys, calm the hell down. Feige knows what he's doing. Disney's not going bankrupt tomorrow, but it's a business. Like you said, it's a corporate thing.
Yeah, but I think, and again, this was part of my conversation with Gigantic Jeff. They had a nice long runway from the first Avengers movie to Endgame. And they were very strategic about planting seeds in subsequent movies. I don't see the connection from Phase 4 and Phase 5 leading to whatever they've got planned. Further, I think the multiverse is the latest proverbial horse beaten to death. And I think we talked about this last week. I used to love in comics when the Justice Society would show up on Earth 2, and we had the crossover with the Justice League, and it was really exciting. Well, that started 60 years ago. Now we're a little further along, but they have beaten this multiverse idea to death. And also Jonathan Major's problems, Kang, is, that's an issue. And further, I don't know what the article said, Mitch, but I do know I've read other articles where they floated the idea that, maybe Robert Downey Jr. and Scarlett Johansson will come back, but they're talking about no earlier than 2026.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And plus, the strike is just pushed that deadline back farther. So it's, it is.
And it's like, that's a long time from now. So if
Yeah.
you idiots don't course correct, you are going to be in trouble. Now, I don't think massive trouble. And eventually, too, the superhero film as a genre will settle down and
Mhm.
not be as omnipresent as it is with TV and film and a million things. Because, and in fact, I forget who I was talking to this week, and they pointed out that in the early '60s, between film and television, God, there were like literally like 70% of scripted television in the early '60s was all westerns.
Mhm.
I mean, and all you got to do is watch Encore's Western Channel or some of the others because they have all the also rans. Yeah, there's Gunsmoke. Yeah, there's Bonanza. But The Deputy and Lawman,
Oh, yeah.
Gun Will
Yeah,
Travel.
Virginia and all that stuff. Yeah.
Tombstone Territory.
Wells
I mean,
Fargo, all that
yes,
stuff. Yeah.
Tales of Wells
And
Fargo.
when we
absolutely.
were kids, we had cop shows. Cop shows were every network had freaking
Archie and Hutch.
Beretta, Columbo.
Beretta.
Yeah. They fall in sitcoms. They
That was
fall in
the
love with
80s
the
and
genre.
90s. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
fall in love with a genre. They beat it to death, and then it pulls back. It doesn't go away,
No.
but it pulls back. So eventually, we'll get some pullback.
The Jonathan Majors thing actually started before he had his legal problems because it was with Quantumania. They thought when they did the Ant-Man movie, that's why they even moved it around on the schedule too. It was originally the Marvels was supposed to go first, and Ant-Man was going to be later on. But then they had trouble with the special effects houses. They couldn't finish stuff on time, so they switched things around in the schedule and they put Ant-Man Quantumania up earlier. And they thought everybody was going to love Quantumania because they went such a different route with the Ant-Man characters. It didn't work like they thought, and that's when they started going, oh, maybe Kang is not the guy that we thought. Like Thanos was the big bad, and it's not going to work. They started going, oh, in the comics, Kang could be a variant of Doctor Doom and all the other backstories, Rama-Tut and Immortus. So they already started planning it, and then Majors gets in his trouble in late March with this girl in New York City that's going to trial actually at the end of November. So we'll find out soon enough what happens to this guy. And that's another thing I was going to bring up real quick. I looked at the charges against him. One's a misdemeanor assault. One's a threat of assault. If it all goes bad, I mean, he could serve some time in jail.
But I think
But if
also
it gets dismissed, it almost sounds like this guy's been convicted already. It's like the court of public opinion.
I think he kind of has because of his other projects and things that I've heard about on with him on set, not just on the Marvel stuff, not during this time, but also on prior productions. I heard he's
kind of a jerk.
Kind of a jerk. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, man. And again, in this environment, and especially if it were something against and not sexually harassing, but if it was some like assault on a man, I'm sure it would not be regarded as significantly as it is given
like Sean Penn.
related to relationships and everything. And
No.
so I get it.
It's just going to be interesting. I think the court date's like November 28th, and then it is what it is. So if he's found not guilty and everything's thrown out, does everything go back the way it was, or people are like, no, you got to go?
Well, Cuba Gooding Jr. had some trouble a couple of years ago, was absolved.
Yeah.
Aziz Ansari found himself in trouble, was absolved. I haven't seen either of those guys lately.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing, man. It's rough, and I so sympathize, and I can only imagine this is the same kind of scrutiny, but it's coming from the left instead of the right.
Yeah.
That the McCarthy era, Senator McCarthy, the communist, the communist witch hunts and everything. It's the same kind of thing. Of
it's so funny.
You
mentioned that, and I think it was a story that Gabe Hardman did or something. It was a Kolchak the Night Stalker 50th anniversary thing a year ago, and there was stories from different writers and artists in there. And there's a Joe McCarthy story in there where Joe McCarthy's making a pledge or a plaque with whatever with the devil, a pact with the devil to get to power, and that's how he was routing all these people out. And then he ends up dying in 3 years afterwards. And after McCarthy dies, dude, he was like disowned by his own state. They were like, oh, we're so embarrassed about what this guy did, and look at all his lives he ruined. He was not a hero after all said and done. They kind of like turned away. I was talking to Ordway because he's from Wisconsin, and he said they don't think of him in such high regard in years retrospect. Maybe at the time he was like the hero of comedy. anti-communism,
but the reinvigorated right wing has once again said no, he was misunderstood.
misunderstood.
I even remember seeing, and forgive me, everybody, I don't want to get too political, but Ann Coulter had a very proud picture of next to McCarthy's tombstone, and
Really?
Very, very smug and very righteous. And no, I've heard it from others as well. Yeah, I mean, again, that's for another podcast. And
No, but you just wonder what all the witch hunt stuff that goes on, and a lot of people's careers are ruined.
Oh,
whether
yeah.
they're guilty or not guilty. Sometimes you sit back and you go, well, did they deserve this much career-ending stuff? I mean,
right? No, absolutely. I hope
in some cases probably not. In some cases, yeah.
Like the Ezra Miller stuff, I don't hear a word about it anymore because now he's not the Flash anymore. But I'm sure he's doing other movies and TV, isn't he? Or is he?
I don't know. Wayne, look up if you don't mind. Look up his,
it'll be interesting. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens in his case. But
yeah,
I haven't heard anything about him at all.
Cyborg Ray, I forget his last name.
Fisher. Ray Fisher.
Ray Fisher. Yeah.
Nice
exactly. Are they still working? Are they still getting gigs? It is interesting.
Well, he was a thing. Well, no, it's because what's the director's name? Brian Singer.
Josh Whedon.
Josh
Whedon.
Whedon.
Josh Whedon that Ray Fisher had an issue with.
Yeah. But a lot of these folks, you hear a lot about them, and there's a lot of talk, and then.
Yeah, again, poor Wayne. We're giving him like the side.
No. Ezra doesn't have anything after the Flash.
Well, they're
in production.
And what about Josh Whedon? What's he?
How about Josh?
Josh is
right.
Done?
Right.
Yeah, I think he's
completely
done.
off the radar now.
And what about
Singer?
Yeah, Brian Singer, because Brian Singer, gay gentleman, has his harassment and grooming accusations. And I don't know where
doesn't work anymore either, and he's got
correct.
I heard something about him trying to come back with a project,
Spacey?
but yeah.
Mel Gibson still working, but kind of
independent stuff. Yeah,
exactly. Go ahead, Wayne. What do you got?
Josh Whedon. The last thing he did was The Nevers. I think that was HBO.
Right, that was an HBO series that, as it was running,
and that was 2021.
Right, and they had to distance themselves from him.
And they ended it early, I think. Yeah.
Speaking of Joss Whedon and the Buffyverse, and I think I might have mentioned on an earlier show, and again, Audible, everybody, that Slayers audio show is very, very good.
Yeah, written by Christopher Golden.
Christopher Golden and Amber Benson, Tara.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's great. Everybody sounds great. James Marsden's or whatever, Spike has a very big role on it. Charisma Carpenter. It's everybody's back. Giles is back.
Yeah. Before Christopher Golden got involved with all the Buffy stuff and then everything else that he's done Hellboy too. But before he even got involved with Buffy, I was set up next to him at a convention, and you talk to the people next to you and stuff like that, and he's like, oh, there's this new show called Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It had just started. And I'm like, I'm not going to watch that because I saw the movie. I wasn't really thrilled with the movie. He goes, no, this is totally different. You got to watch it. And it's because of him that I started watching it. And then he was eventually involved with all this stuff. He just did the Slayers Audible thing.
Yeah, he's a great writer of licensed properties. Mm-hmm. And he comes on and understands the material and is able to forge new stories with it and stuff. Because, goddamn, he did Battlestar Galactica, the original Lorne Green version and everything. He worked with Richard Hatch on those subsequent stories. Those are great books. If you're into 78 Galactica, they're a lot of fun.
I remember him at shows, Hatch making his own trailer for this proposed Battlestar Galactica story that he had. And he was always pushing it way before Sci-Fi came back with
absolutely. No, and he invests a lot of his own money, and like that, he got John Colicos to come back as Baltar and everything, and a lot of the original actors. It's on YouTube, folks. If you haven't watched it, it's terrific. It's really, really interesting, and it's a shame. But what he couldn't do on video or film, he ended up putting in they did like 7 books, and they're expensive. They're not in print anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So to try and get the one I was missing, it was like. Yeah, it's $70. I'm like, all right, I don't need to read it. That's it.
I don't need that bad. What's funny? You say Kickstarter and stuff like nowadays. So many people. You did a good show with Kelly Jones and Matt Wagner for their Vlad book, which I supported too. You know, I don't see any film projects because it's so much easier nowadays to make movies with special effects with all the software that they have and stuff right now. You wonder if Richard Hatch, God rest his soul, was around nowadays and he wanted to do it. Almost would seem like a Kickstarter project. It's like, hey, if you guys send me enough money, I can go off and make a movie that we could put on whatever digital or whatever, put it on the internet.
Elsa Chartier and James Tynion have done a little short movie. I've
I was gonna say, there's film projects on Kickstarter.
Sure.
Are there?
Well,
yeah, there
remember, and again, I think in the case of Galactica, given that Universal still owns the property, that might have been more difficult. However, the guy who created Veronica Mars, that first 2-hour movie was totally crowdfunded, and then obviously led to the subsequent sequel series. So it can happen. And in fact, I mean, no, really, crowdfunding is being. I mean, people are making albums, record albums, everything. Oh yeah, and novels and things. No, a lot of people. It's just gathering your audience and, hey, you like what I do? Here's a project I'm doing. Will you back it? It's proof of concept. And a lot of these things.
I'm going to be doing a Kickstarter next year.
There you go.
Are you now?
There you go. But God, man, you're right. That Dracula book that Kelly and Matt are doing is just gorgeous. Really.
No, but real quick, we'll go back to the Marvel article. You talk about script problems. There was some bit in there that now that I looked into it, I heard it's all bullshit. The guy that won the Academy Award that was going to play Blade, they said there was one version where they would
Masala.
Yeah, he was also on the Luke Cage show too. He played.
He was Copperhead, right?
Cottonmouth.
Cottonmouth. Thank you, buddy.
Yeah, the snake. So the thing of it is, they talk about. See, that's why I was looking at this article and how legit is this? Because it's like, oh, there's a version of the Blade movie where Blade is a background character, and there's 4 women protagonists now, and he's just a side guy, and it's like he's not even the star of his own movie, and they're reducing the budget from 100 million to like 70 million, and I'm like, wait a second, Blade the Vampire, he fights vampires. It's not like a science space movie. It's mostly filmed at night because it's all dark and mysterious and creepy. You shouldn't be spending hundreds of million on something like this. This should be a low budget freaking horror movie. What the hell's going on over there? And then
back
the script. You already had 3 Blade movies. It's a comic book. How many times do you have to reinvent this wheel? It's like, Jesus God, it is what it is.
I don't mind a modern version of Blade to throw into the MCU because I think it's a great character, and much like Werewolf by Night, gives you a chance to explore horror,
which was great on a simple budget.
Right,
Werewolf by Night was not an expensive movie.
And 25 years ago, when they made the Wesley Snipes first Blade, that was a reasonably priced movie.
Yeah.
No, this is part of the bigger problem with the studios. They are spending too much money recklessly. And they're just, and again, I go back to that idea of, I think they thought, well, we've got the pattern. Look at what we did from Iron Man to Endgame. We had a nice long runway. And they thought they had the same thing with Phase 4 and Phase 5.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, we've seen the magic trick. You got to give us something new. And Eternals, as much as I was rooting for it, kind of sucked.
Yeah.
Well, I read some sort of article about Eternals and Shang-Chi being kind of like an experimental. Let's see how these go over type thing, and probably why they're going to be just one and dones.
But also,
no, they're playing Eternals too.
If I may, they're on their 3rd Paul Rudd movie, and I love Paul Rudd, and Ant-Man is a lot of fun. What made the other 2 movies fun were his heist crew from prison.
Yeah,
they're not in Quantumania, and it's like, okay. And also, listen, I love Paul Rudd. He is not Robert Downey. He is not Chris Evans, and the surviving Avengers have not been compelling enough to lead their own films, in my opinion, or go back to, because it involved multiverse, the second Doctor Strange movie. Well, last scene, all of a sudden there's an evil eye on top of Stephen Strange's head, and he's evil. What have they done with that since? Nothing.
No, well,
now it could be the evil eye, or it could be the eye Agamotto,
right?
Because that's also from the comics that the eye can actually
Of course.
No, I thought it's because he used the book of
The Darkhold.
Dookie Dookie, whatever. Yeah, the Darkhold, and that's what
Dookie.
corrupted him. Whatever. And then Charlize Theron showed up. It's like, hey, now I'll
That's
go
Clea.
follow her, whatever dark dimension she wants
Clea.
to go into.
Well, and the
So-
other thing too with Blade. Oh, I'm sorry, Mitch. Go ahead.
No. I was gonna. Hey, dude, think about Ant-Man. The fact that there was one Ant-Man movie still boggles my mind. The
Oh my
fact there
God,
was
but it was
two
great.
was amazing. 3 was going to the well a little bit too much, and I agree with you. When I saw Michael Pena wasn't there, and I go, "Oh, Dave DeSmalton's in it," but this time he's a blobby shit thing. I don't know what the hell it was, and they got rid of the other guy. I'm like, what are you doing? You go to an Ant-Man movie, they already established they're kind of like heist movies and comedy and lightweight. It's like,
Yes.
don't vary that. I don't go to a Western to see suddenly a guy out in, a desert island. It's like, this is what I'm coming to expect. This is what people paid to
You mean
see.
like Cowboys versus Aliens?
That's a whole other story.
Let's not even go there.
Good story.
Oh, hilarious.
Wow, Wayne,
There's a
really?
whole bunch of backstory there.
And that's a John Favreau project, so who knows what's going on there? And there was a lot of money on that thing.
I know about a whole bunch about behind the scenes of that song.
If there's,
You know
if
who
there's
wrote that?
Fred Van Lente.
Valenti. Yeah.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
Keeping
I
the
got,
Marvel
I got
love-
stories about that too.
yeah, Freddie's been on the show many times to discuss.
No,
Cowboys
but
Aliens.
the thing of it is, you talked about Eternals. They planned on Eternals too. They didn't think it was going to backfire, but they should have had an inkling when they were doing these Cloak and Dagger on the ABC Family shows, and they bombed. They did Runaways. It wasn't a huge. I'm like, there was already, they
But
did
that
a
was-
Hellstrom story that no one even talks about. What's actually not so bad. The
Which
Son
one?
of Satan.
Oh
Son
yeah,
of Satan.
oh,
Yeah,
Hellstrom.
it was actually pretty
Yeah.
good. I liked it. It was very.
I agree with you.
It was an interesting take on the characters.
It was, but there was it was already in the water. There was blood in the water that, these things are going off the rails here. No one's paying attention.
But that was
Yeah.
pre-streaming, and it was when Marvel TV had its own identity that they would a bit dip into the cinematic universe, like on Daredevil and some of the early Netflix shows. They would refer to the alien invasion as the incident, the stuff that happens in Avengers.
Right.
But otherwise, they really kind of just went their own way. And again, so I don't see those things as really being part of the Feige plan. In fact, in a response to that, that's why Feige has suddenly come on and is much more hands-on now in comics, film, and television. And that's when they let Jeff go, Jeff Loeb.
Yeah, I was gonna say you talked to Jeff Loeb about a week ago. Does he still talk about? Well, he knew his marching orders. Like, you're over here in this camp, and we're over here, and movies and TV don't mix. Even though they did Shield, they tried to bring some of the characters in. It just never really came together.
Well, we're going to get more into it on our next conversation because I wanted to feel Jeff out. Nobody likes to talk about getting fired. I mean, I
know, but you got to support the team. You don't want to be like,
oh sure, and he does.
I'll never work with him.
He's a good soldier, but I think our next conversation we will, because I even said let's try and get more into the minutia next time, and he'll be back by the beginning of the year. I mean, I didn't know him being gone for so many years from Word Balloon. I'm like, are we cool? I mean, really, even when I was trying to track him down, and thank you, Jeff Johns, for helping find him for me. And I mean, he knew where he was, but no, he was like, oh no, I missed this. I really do want to talk more. I'm like, great. And also, I want to give the opportunity. Are you doing anything new? Right now, he's not. Okay. And also, it was a long Halloween kind of anniversary, and they're putting those out. They're putting the Marvel color books back out and everything. So there was so much to talk about with Jeff. And as you know, I mean, I would have gone Marty Pasco on him and talked for 4 hours if he was willing. But
but they did this big feature article in Variety. Everyone's taking their shots at Marvel. They're already shooting down the Marvels movie before it even opens this Friday. Like, oh, it's only going to make $70 to $80 million.
Yep.
Dude, there's been a lot of change in the world in the last couple of years when it comes to movies and how much they make. I mean, just look at the freaking Indiana Jones and Mission Impossible. They didn't make hundreds of millions or billions,
So then look at Barbie.
Well, but again, Barbie and Oppenheimer are exceptions. Exactly.
Correct.
Come on, man.
Outliers.
No, yeah. If you think, oh, everything's solved now and movies are back, I got some swamp.
I just my argument with that is that if you make something good, word of mouth gets around.
Sure, it does.
The picture does well.
But also, frankly, in fairness,
yeah, go ahead.
There is a familiarity with Barbie without a preconceived notion of what it should be. And now 25 movies or whatever it is into Marvel, there is an expectation.
Right. But I think the other layer, I think the other layer that I'd put on top of that is a lot of these studios are releasing streaming and theatrical like at the same time too.
Right.
So there's that dynamic as well. So sorry, Wayne, go ahead.
Oh yeah, and the thing with Barbie and Oppenheimer, again, there's the social media buzz to make it into a game.
Yeah.
Right.
That whole Barbenheimer thing was going on.
You can't.
Yeah, but,
can't plan that. You can't
yeah,
plan that.
you can't. Right. You
No,
can't
no,
plan that. And,
plan that,
and
but I think that could also explain some of its box office.
Yes.
value
yeah,
is
but I think
absolutely.
the crossover appeal of Barbie like came with
Mhm.
like I had no inkling or ambition to see that movie at all
Mhm.
when it was announced. I saw the trailer and I'm like, wow, that looks a lot more interesting than I thought it did. Went to go see the movie and it was totally different than what I thought it was going to be, and it was great. And then
Yeah.
like I told two people and I'm
Sure.
I don't want to say I'm responsible, but I'm saying
Mhm.
people went to go
Who's in it?
people went to go see it and they told other people about it, and you had grandmothers taking kids.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
had,
Right.
you had, you
Well,
had
that's another
everybody go
thing,
see this,
man.
right?
It was multi-generational because grandma played with Barbie just like the granddaughter
Yep.
did. And so you got 3 generations of women going, oh no, I really want to see this. And
Right.
again,
No, and it works on a
Similarity.
bunch of different levels. I mean, little girls could go see it and they get, look at the costumes and all that
Sure.
stuff. And, the message
Yeah.
might not be sinking into them what they're talking about empowerment. And they're just like, oh, look at that cool Barbie's house and the little
Right.
car she has and all that. So, yeah. I mean,
No,
Did you
it-
guys see the Echo trailer?
yeah, I did.
Oh,
Yeah.
I have not seen the Echo trailer yet. What do you
All I
think?
can say is, if you like Daredevil season 1,
Yeah.
you're gonna get that with Echo.
Vincent
I had no problem
D'Onofrio's
with that.
back.
I got no problem with that.
Yeah. No, it is violent.
Oh,
Good.
yeah, it is.
Good.
So
It
much
is.
so that I'm surprised it's on Disney Plus because
Exactly.
it's got to be. Dude, there's headshots in the trailer. You see the Kingpin
no shots. Yeah,
just puts
really?
a gun to a guy's head and boom, blows her head off. I'm like,
Like
this is on Disney Plus.
he wears
So-
the white
Yeah.
suit, and it's not white at the end of the day.
No.
So
Well, now you see Echo makes sense. And again, Echo
Mhm.
was established and everything.
Yeah.
Going back to Blade and what you read,
Yeah.
Mitch, and I had heard this too, that it was going to be like Blade and like these 4 women and stuff. It's I'm sorry, but South Park is right. If you know their
the
more
pandering.
recent- yeah.
Oh, the Catherine
Penderverse.
Kennedy thing.
Yeah,
used to?
and it's kind of true. It's like, will you please just accept an intellectual property of what it is? And unfortunately, the stock phrase from Cartman as Kathleen Kennedy is put a woman in it, make her gay.
Well, no,
And it's
you're
okay.
contradicting yourself right there. Franco
Why?
just says, "Look at Barbie, makes over $1.5 billion, female protagonist."
But
So
I'm
why
not-
wouldn't you go? Oh, then I guess that's what people want
Well-
because that's Hollywood thinking. So we're going to make every heroine or lead is going to be a female
Well,
hero.
it takes a little while for that to start happening.
Well, and further, what I'm suggesting, if you want to use Barbie as an example, is it's a Barbie movie, but it's really about Ken. It's really about the other sex, and it's like that's what they're doing when it's Blade, and now Blade is mentoring 4 women, or some of these other things. I mean, you could even make the argument about what's her face's character in Indiana Jones. and
Indiana
it's
Jones,
like,
I knew you were going to say that.
well, but again, that's I disagree with it. I thought it was proportionally acceptable, but
Yeah.
I can appreciate frustration. I had this problem not from a sexual standpoint at all, but when Marvel put all their legacy versions, Amadeus Cho as Hulk, Riri
Yeah.
Williams as Ironheart, a lot of these other characters, where the even Sam Wilson as Captain America,
Right.
where's Steve Rogers? Well, he's off screen. Where's Bruce Banner? Well, he's dead. Where's Iron Man? Well, he's the ghost in the machine now. Well, I'm sorry. When I buy an Iron Man comic book, I have an expectation of reading a Tony Stark story. I'm not saying to not have Riri Williams in there, but I want Tony. It's a Tony book. It's a Steve Rogers book. And again, it's going to sound racist, maybe, that I'm saying these things. I don't mean that at all. I love Sam Wilson. Back to Star Trek, Avery Brooks Ben Sisko is my favorite captain, and always has been. He's amazing. But that said, there are expectations of, okay, we want to watch an Indiana Jones movie, and it's like, again, it's like, well, here's a woman that's doing a lot of shit while it's happening. And it's
Why
like,
can't you have why can't you have what they used to have, what Roy Thomas did back in the 70s and 80s, where you have, hey, if you grew up, because you got to remember in the 70s, if you were a kid in the 40s, you're like 45 year about that age now. So I want my old World War II heroes. Okay, we got this book called The Invaders. Well, then he goes to DC. Well, I want to read about the old Superman and Dr. Fate and Captain Midnight. Okay, well, we got the All-Star Squadron, which is all, and it satisfied that group. Who's to say Marvel could not do, hey, here's a Steve Rogers book set years ago, and here's the new Sam Wilson, Steve Rogers.
You're waiting.
Here's Bruce Banner, and here's Amadeus Cho of it.
But Mitch, they didn't, Mitch. But that's the problem. They didn't do that. They all at the same time had the legacy characters take over the books. And I asked Wade about this. I asked Bendis about this. I asked Axel Alonso about this. And they're like, well, it kind of happened by accident. It all happened at once. They're 6-month stories. We're kind of stuck. And it's like, well, that's kind of where the Comicsgate people kind of have a point where I want to read a Steve Rogers story. I like Sam Wilson, but not to the expense of losing Steve Rogers. And I think that, and again, you can agree or disagree, sales went down. So obviously they did something wrong.
Dude, sales have been going down on comics every day for the last 50 years.
Well, and again, I'm talking more, and I use the comics as an example, but I'm talking more about these new movies and TV shows where it's like, again, I'm cool with an Echo series, and I'm excited to see D'Onofrio back as Kingpin. And I think it's going to be fine. I loved She-Hulk. I loved She-Hulk.
Oh, She-Hulk was a good show, yeah.
But again, it's like sometimes it's like the idea of doing Blade and having these 4 women proteges. It's like, can you just give me a goddamn Blade movie, please?
See, I thought they were going to do Blade.
How much of that do you think? I was going to say, how much do you think that's true? Because they're so tight-lipped in secrecy when it comes to Marvel. I can imagine that somebody's going to violate their NDA and blow the whole script and let it go out there.
I think they leak it on purpose.
I think a lot of this just fuels those anti-hate, misogynistic fuckers out there who just have nothing better to do. No, dude, I am so tired of people full of hate. There's people that hate women. There's people that hate people's colors. There's people that hate religion. This world is so full of fucking bullshit.
I know.
I waited all day. I wasn't going to say F once on the show. But
and I appreciate it truly, and I see that.
Seriously, and we talk about Star Trek. We talk about the perfect world, and everybody, infinite diversity, all that stuff. And nothing drives me nuts that these people worship Captain America. They worship these people. Yet the core characters are fucking open-minded, realistic. They love if you look at the essence of these characters, they're pure of heart. There's no prejudice. There's no hatred. There's no racism.
Yes.
Yet these people banded together and they go, that's not my Captain America. Obviously, you're reading the wrong book, jackass, because if you read the story written by Stan Lee, drawn by Jack Kirby, all this, you would see the fundamental of good values, morals that are in all these characters, Kirk, Spock, all this stuff, yet they twist it and they turn it just to get clicks on goddamn YouTube, to get clicks on their fucking websites so they can
You have one more F-bomb, and that's it. You have one more F-bomb.
All right, I'm just saying, it just drives me up.
I appreciate what you're saying, and I
hate
agree with
it
you.
so much. Don't buy the books. Fine, don't buy it. If my son doesn't like football anymore because he says it's
regarding Blade, though, I do have some knowledge on this subject. Several years ago, towel off. I understand. Get a rub. Get Sharon in there. Like, you need a rub down.
She's on the bed. She's got a real job.
Well, regarding Blade, though, a couple of years ago in the comics, they were planning on, and a good friend of ours was going to write it.
Yeah,
they had a young artist that was going to draw it, and the whole thing was, here's Blade's daughter, and it's going to be the adventures. Hold on, and they decided not to do it because the artist that they chose had never done a monthly book, was not up to the task. I don't know why the project didn't continue with possibly another writer or another artist, but if you look on the internet, you'll see names of who was involved. So no, that was part of that, and it was during this legacy hero idea. Isn't this great? And it's like, it is great, but do it where the original is still part of the story. I always give it up to Jason Aaron when he made Jane Foster Thor, because we didn't lose track of what was happening to original Thor. It was still very much part of the story.
I was going to say, I was going to push back on what you said about Riri Williams and Amadeus Cho. But you're right. They do keep the core character in the story somehow, because I was going to bring up the example of Spider-Man with the black suit, and then that's how we got Venom. So
Yeah.
Right.
when you
Right.
bring up these different, ideations or characterizations of, what an Iron Man could be like Riri Williams or something like that, you could wind up with something really cool that comes out of that. So I was going to push back, but then with
No,
with,
she's a
with
good
the
character.
character involved, I agree with that.
Well, and again, I was telling this to Brian while it was happening, and I'm like, well, but Tony's not there. Oh no, Tony's there. He's the ghost in the machine. Yeah, but now it's Riri's story, and it should be Tony and Riri's story, in my opinion. If it's
I don't agree with that altogether.
well,
but,
again, I understand that's my opinion on that, and
you're wrong. No,
I know
Hey,
that's
wrong.
right.
Exactly.
Now, I will say, and honestly, if you want a ray of hope with the Marvel Cinematic Universe or whatever Marvel's doing in general, the fact that they went back and saw what they were doing with Daredevil and said, we're going in the wrong direction. Let's stop. Let's rewrite. Everyone else is in place, but we need a new showrunner and a new direction because we're doing it wrong. To me, that's a good sign. And I do believe that they are not just blindly, well, it's been 30 movies and we're still doing great. No, I'm sure they're very aware.
Well, if
editorially.
the strike didn't happen and the actors went on strike and they
Yeah.
didn't have the time to review this, because this is really what happened. They had downtime and they said, "Oh, what did those guys? Oh, let's watch the first 5 episodes." And then they're like, "This is not what we had in mind," so they're doing it all over again. If that never happened, and they continued on their production schedule, and Daredevil was set to premiere in early 2024, like it was supposed to, with 18 episodes. What you're saying, it would have been a total pile of shit?
No, I have no idea. And also, I don't know. I believe too, Mitch, that every production has its own think tank and group. I'm sure Feige's overseeing everything. But that said, I certainly believe that they are very scrutinized in terms of what each little group of writers and people are doing. But all that said, I don't know if they would have come to the same conclusion, because I also think there would have been less product on streamers and would have been released in movies. The original order of the Marvels and Quantumania and things would have happened so it all would have happened in a different way, in my opinion.
No, I'm going back to DC for a second. Batgirl gets canceled. They filmed it, what, 90, 80, $100 million, $100 million.
I know,
not
man.
$10, not $100 bucks. All that money, all that time, all that talent, Michael Keaton, all this. No one looks at anything. Now, everyone, the ship is driving blind.
Well,
no one's at the wheel. And then suddenly they get to post-production. They're even scoring music, I believe. That's how far it got. And then they go, oh, this is a dump. And they threw it out. Was it a corporate decision because they needed to save money because they lost billions of dollars, and accounting's like, what can we do to throw something overboard? Hey, let's throw this shit out. Okay,
watch the rest of what's happening with HBO television. The fact that, and I still got to talk to Rodney Barnes, the fact that Lakers show ended after 7 episodes of the second season, and everything that was redeeming and exciting about what the Lakers win. The show was called Winning Time, and it ends with them losing. And it's like, oh, by the way, the Lakers had a bunch of championships after this all happened. And it's like, well, weren't we going to see that eventually? I think no. It's in the case of DC and Warner's, it's all financial. It's all financial.
With the merger, they needed to cut some costs, and they also needed some quick write-offs.
Yeah,
and that was a nice write-off.
Yep. Yep. So that sucks. All right. Other happy news. I did watch the Monarch trailer for Apple TV about the Godzilla show. Mm-hmm. And actually, right before we went on, I was talking to Matt Fraction, who is the showrunner, which is, I mean, I knew he was writing it. I was talking to, because Matt, when Matt gets in a real tear, I can't reach him. So Kelly Sue DeConnick, his wife, was telling me, and she's like, "Oh no, Matt's really, really excited. He's writing Godzilla." Well, I thought he was just on the staff. I didn't realize he's the showrunner, and he's sending me, he's hooking me up with Apple to get advanced looks at episodes. I think it starts,
November 11th or so,
something like that.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited. I mean, again, based on the trailer, really excited that it's Kurt Russell and Kurt Russell's son. Yep, really excited that John Goodman is in it. Everybody looks great. The CGI looks fantastic. I am curious why it's called Monarch and not Godzilla.
No, Monarch's
because
the name of the
that's
company.
the overbranching corporation. It's like
If
in
you
the
watch the
Resident
movie,
Evil
Monster.
movies, it's the Umbrella Corporation.
I like
In,
that you got
Godzilla,
assaulted
it's
by all
Monarch.
3 of us at once. I like
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
Hey, if you got the knowledge, by all means,
No, that was
fool me.
the group that Goodman was in the
Yep.
King Kong Skull Island
Mhm.
movie, and that's the one that Bryan Cranston was. Yeah,
You know, I'm
know.
excited for this series. I have not watched any of those movies.
Oh, you got
Ah.
well, you got to watch them because you won't know what the hell's going on, man.
No, I'll be fine.
You won't
I'm sure
know.
I'll be
You'll
fine.
start watching. You won't know who Godzilla is.
You know, King Kong versus Godzilla. You didn't know there was an invisible tunnel that goes from China to wherever in the center of
Spoilers.
the
He
earth.
didn't watch it. Come on, he just said.
Oh my God, what a piece of
And November 17th.
That's
It's
what,
the start
yeah,
date.
that's what Matt told me was November 17th. So I have
Oh,
time.
by the way, speaking of DC Comics, there's another original comic book show on TV, which I didn't even know was a comic show until I saw the
Bodies.
Bodies. Yeah, it says
Yes.
based on the DC
Vertigo.
graphic novel. I'm like,
It's
When
Vertigo.
was
That's
that?
right, Wayne. You're right. No, Shelley Bond clued me into that earlier last week, and yeah, because she was the editor of Bodies.
it's on
And
Netflix.
says it's says it's fantastic. So that's cool. No, man, like we were talking off the air, and that's one of the reasons why we're going to continue, even though Star Trek is wrapped up for the rest of 2023. There's a lot of great stuff. Monarch, obviously, being one of them, For All Mankind. Quantum Leap still chugging
You have a
along.
new
Great.
show card to reflect that.
Indeed. I know.
Did you watch Loki? Did you watch Loki? You caught up on
Yeah.
that yet?
No, I'm still
I got-
behind.
I got a list of stuff I'm getting.
I know.
there.
Wait,
Oh, Monty, you're retired. What are you doing all day?
Yeah, got
Watching
Yeah.
Price
I got
is Right.
Right,
got
watching
stuff.
The Price is Right.
I am watching The
Exactly.
I've been on the prices right there. I can tell you all about that if you want.
Is that
Dude,
the one where
so-
let's make a deal? That's a thing on. That's still on.
That's,
Where they
Where the
cosplay.
costumes-
That's
Yeah.
Wayne
Yeah.
Brady, isn't it?
yeah, that's Wayne Brady. This is Drew
Yeah.
Carey's prices right. Come on,
Right.
get it straight.
So do the Barker beauties, they don't get into bathing suits anymore, do they?
No, they're fully dressed male and
They
female.
wear trench coats now.
Oh, you like
Male and
Carol
female.
Merrill and all those people? They
Right,
used to flip
right,
them?
like Vanna White and Carol Merrill. Exactly. Go
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
What do they do, Mitt or Franco? Sorry.
That's Frank.
And it's male and female Vannas on that show, and they're fully dressed. Yeah.
Well, I was telling you because after you told me your parents are obsessed with The Price is Right, they got to watch Pluto and some of the other free streamers because they have both a Bob Barker Price is Right channel and a Drew Carey Price is Right
Oh
channel.
wow, you
Yeah.
should make
I
them
don't-
watch.
I don't always catch prices right with them, but when I do, they catch me up on episodes I may have missed. Because a couple of weeks ago, apparently there was a guy who won everything. He won, he got the dollar on the spin wheel. He won his thing, and then he got the dollar on the spin wheel, and then he won both showcases.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Do you watch that show where the people are? It's like the dating game, but they show their junk, and you see, it's a real show.
No, I'm
It's
not
a-
on
I know,
both
I know
sides
it
of
is.
the
Attraction.
fan like
Big
you are.
attraction,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't get to see that as often.
You should put
When
that
I
on for
visit-
your mom and your dad.
When I visit my parents' house, I don't get to see that as often as Price is Right. But yeah.
How about Byron Allen's show, Funny You Should Ask, which is Hollywood Squares without the tic-tac-toe.
At 3 a.m.
Yes, it's on every. Yeah,
I was
but you
gonna
know,
say, Byron
Yeah.
Allen became a billionaire. Why? Because he has shows that go from like when everyone goes to bed to dawn. I'm like, what is this? Comedians and Byron Allen production. I'm like, who's watching this?
hey
No,
man,
I
he
know.
made enough. He made enough money that he bought the Weather Channel.
Yeah.
He
I
did
mean, he-
not. Did he really?
He absolutely did a couple of years ago.
He's got almost as much money as Tyler Perry, from what I
Yeah, he is.
understand.
No, he's rich. I remember when he was on Real People. That's
Yeah,
when he
absolutely,
started. Him
man.
and Skip
Yeah.
Stevenson and
And
Sarah
Tyler Perry made his
Purcell.
money because he has his own studio.
So,
John
Fran
Barber. That's why he gets
Tarkenton. No, he
everything.
was on That's Incredible.
No, he was on That's
Um,
Incredible with Kathleen
Steve
Crosby and
Stevenson.
John Davidson.
John Barber, Skip
John
Stevenson,
Barber, yes,
Sarah
real people.
Purcell, and Byron. Yes,
I
met-
hated that show.
I met Sarah Purcell at one of those Hollywood autograph shows at the
Oh.
Beverly Garland Hotel in
Yeah.
LA, and yeah, it was funny. But yeah,
You
it was.
should have that haircut, that little
This,
like.
well, this
Dorothy
is
Gilmore
literally
thing.
this is literally 40 years ago.
No, this is
Yeah.
a serious question.
Early
Do
80s.
do they have real people, or That's Incredible on Pluto? Do they show them anywhere?
I don't think so. I don't think.
Remember
Although
Gar Robinson.
I'm sorry.
Dar Robinson was the guy Kathy Lee Crosby was dating, and he was the stuntman. He would throw himself off. He was in Sharky's machine. He threw himself off the top of the building, but they would always have like, Dar Robinson is going to hang off a helicopter with his teeth this week. That's incredible. And
that's
show
funny.
it, and you're like, why are we doing this?
There is a Real People segment on YouTube, and it was during the controversy where Clayton Moore was not allowed to wear the Lone Ranger mask anymore. And it was all positive Clayton Moore. And it's like, yeah, the company can do what they want. This guy's still the Lone Ranger. And it's fantastic. And I believe John Barber was the narrator. I know poor Skip Stevenson had kind of an unfortunate end.
Oh, no, he's dead?
Yeah, I think so. I'm reasonably certain. I know that he had serious.
Was it his bell-bottom pants and his boots that he would wear on that show?
Yeah, he didn't, but that didn't save him. No, he did a lot of drugs, did a lot of booze. I believe Wayne is confirming the.
Richard's childhood is shattered right now.
No, I'm just on Pluto.
No, Johnny Carson loved Skip Stevenson. He was like from Nebraska or some shit, and he was like he would bring him on the show and he'd groom him and stuff. But
he groomed him.
Groomed him. Wow.
Yeah, that word has a different meaning these days. That's a bad word.
Oh,
now.
does it really?
Oh yeah, that's what all the older men who try to help young or not. Forgive me.
It was called mentoring when I was a kid.
Right,
so
mentoring is still.
That's what it's still called.
Mentoring is still positive. Grooming means you're taking advantage of these young women.
Oh, it's got to be only women.
Writers have had that issue in the comic
the
industry.
So I can say, I can get my dog groomed. Is that okay?
I was going to say, or your barber.
Okay, I just want to make sure the vocabulary doesn't get me thrown out because I didn't get the memo last Tuesday.
I know.
Jesus fuck.
I know. It sucks.
Time to go. Mitch is getting upset.
I know. It's like every other day. It's like, what now? What did I say now? God almighty.
Did you look, Wayne? Forgive me. Did you look
for which one? I was trying to look for
if he's living or dead.
Okay, I was looking at Pluto.
We're betting on if Skip Stevenson's live or dead. You know we have nothing to talk about anymore.
We're reaching the end. I understand.
It's Deadpool.
Yes, he did. Man, he died. He died.
Yeah, 1992.
Yeah.
Of what?
Bell-bottom.
Heart attack. Yeah, bell-bottom. Overdose of bell-bottom.
The man is dead, Wayne, and you're laughing about it.
Sorry.
Get a grip, Wayne. You're half full.
He was only 50. He was only 52.
Wow.
Heart attack.
Yeah.
From what? Just a heart attack?
Listen, the Google doesn't give us details. You got to go.
I gotta go. Is that one of those like mystery shows that you watch, like the
Who Killed Skip Stevenson?
Who kills it? Yeah.
I just saw that on either Ovation or E. I forget which.
I believe it was Lifetime.
It's a 2-hour movie. Who's going to play him? Ted McGinley is.
He could do. Yeah, but poor Skip Stevenson. He always looked stoned.
Yeah, he had he probably was.
And maybe he was.
He was being groomed. Of course he was.
No, I always like when these people die, these celebrities, and it's always an accidental suicide.
You know who was surprisingly still alive? Another 70s comedian, Gary Muldeer. And he cleaned up because he had a massive. Oh, man.
I remember the name.
He was so funny. He was on that terrible Make Me Laugh game show.
Oh, God, yeah. Is Fred Travellini still with us?
No, Fred Travellini has passed away.
Oh, come on.
Kip Adada has also passed away.
JP Morgan. Is she with us?
JP Morgan.
Not the millionaire, but the one
on the Gong Show.
J-A-Y-E.
Everybody
J-A-Y. You know what the hell she
flashed she flashed her breasts on
the Gong Show movie. I saw that in the theaters. Yeah.
I don't know, but one of my favorite Odd Couple episodes. I'm going to say Alive.
I'm going to say
JP Morgan.
I'm going to say never had a career.
But
Joey Heatherton, living or dead?
Joey Heatherton's still alive.
Yes. Way to go.
I got news for you. Paul Lynn.
Paul Lynn the Block and Artery.
Charles Nelson Riley, dead.
Charles Nelson Riley.
I was watching an old interview with Burt Reynolds, and his dad was very, unfortunately, old-fashioned anti-gay. And he brought Charles Nelson Riley to his parents' house.
Oh, no.
And he warned him, and he goes, listen, my dad, he doesn't mean it. He's old-fashioned. I'm sorry, whatever. And apparently Charles Nelson Riley introduced himself and literally made his voice go lower, go, how you doing? I'm Chuck. And Charles Nelson Riley. And then I forget where they were, but some that story isn't even worth it. But he said, Reynolds said about his father, to his credit, the two actor friends of mine that my dad got really close to were Charles Durning and Charles Nelson Riley. So that's cool. That at least the dad kind of came around and was a little more accepting of
you can actually like
Chuck
people
and Riley
because you don't agree with what they do in their privacy of their own home.
Yeah, but I mean,
I see Mitch getting his soapbox again.
My grandparents would have had issues with the gay community. Please, as I always say, that's why I was very proud of my father, because he had a gay couple come into his restaurant, got to know the guys, and he's like, they're good guys. I had no idea. All right, never mind. Do what you want. And it's like, way to go, Dad. That was pretty progressive for 1981.
JP Morgan still alive at 91.
Yes, we got another one that the Grim Reaper hasn't taken yet.
He's in the Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, the Chuck Barris movie. So and that was like 15 years ago. But no,
that was with Sam Rockwell. That's a good movie.
Excellent movie. Excellent movie.
Matthew Perry.
I know. Very sad.
Oh my gosh. Come on.
Sad. Yeah.
Unfortunately, he's gone.
Richard Roundtree.
I know. Shaft. Oh my God.
Richard Mall.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Harvey
the other guy's named Dick.
Dick Mall. You're right.
Dick
Very
Sargent,
sad.
Dick York.
Brother.
Suzanne Summers.
Suzanne Summers. Thigh Master killed her.
Yep.
Who freaking knew that Larry, the guy upstairs, and Joyce DeWitt would be the sole survivor? Who knew that Lenny would be the last surviving member of Laverne and Shirley? The big ragu's gone.
Oh, yeah. Cindy Williams passed too. Yeah.
He's dead. That's what I'm saying. Squiggy's
No,
dead.
You're right. Yes, poor Squiggy. Yeah, he had bad
Squiggy.
MS. Not that there's good MS, but
Yeah.
Well,
I got the good kind. Walk it off.
Well, that's what Martin Sheen says in the West.
Says I have the good MS.
Well, yeah, because it's
that's his initials.
It's remitting. It's not like ongoing and stuff. And he's like, I got the good kind of MS. And the press, Toby, the press guy's like, there's a good kind. It's like,
I thought it was just doing his initials, like Martin Short.
Nice. But yeah, man, no. So there's a lot of great TV coming up.
Peter Postlethwaite.
Who?
Peter Postlethwaite.
Pete Postlethwaite. Yeah. What about him?
No, he's dead, right?
Hasn't he been for a while? I thought a while.
I don't know. I'm just saying. I didn't know Skip Stevenson was
dead. So is Phyllis Diller. So
2011.
Waylon Flowers, the guy with the
2011.
Waylon Flowers and Matt. Did he die?
Dead. Waylon is dead.
You know it's time to end the show when we keep going over a list of
No, I'm just thinking of all those people that would be on game shows because
1988.
And I remember that
Waylon Flowers died in 1988. Mitch, there you go.
Who did?
Waylon Flowers, Waylon and Madam.
1988, really?
Yeah, he was born in 39.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
How many drugs have you been doing? What's going on there?
I just thought he had a bad agent. I haven't seen him on TV lately. That's
Merv Griffin dead.
Mike Douglas gone.
Mike Douglas
Doc
gone.
Severinsen still with us.
90 whatever. God bless Doc Severinsen.
It's because he was blowing all those trumpets ears.
Sure.
Got a lot of air in his lungs.
Damn right.
I'm a big fan. He's amazing.
Yeah. Barbara Eden's still with us. God bless her. Barbara Feldon still. Everybody named Barbara is still living.
Okay, he's gonna name everybody named Barbara now.
Barbara Walters.
Barbara Stanwyck. Not
very dead. Very dead. No, get them on Terrificon.
Get them at Terrificon. That's right. I'm going to do a whole section of people that you thought were dead that are not. $40.
Barbers that are alive. And Barbara Freelander could be on the panel as well. The three of them. So no, that'd be great. Speaking of Barbara Stanwyck, I was watching also still alive, Richard Chamberlain, King of the Miniseries.
No, he's not. Oh, is he? Is he a Shogun guy?
Yeah.
I thought he was dead.
But he great stuff about the Thornbirds and Shogun and a lot of his he was the original Jason Bourne on film because they did a miniseries of the Bourne Identity in the 80s.
When?
One of my sister's favorite novels, and distinctly remembers watching the miniseries. And it's she's like, hey, Jason Bourne, wasn't that Richard Chamberlain? And I'm like, I don't know. And she goes, I'm reasonably certain I saw him as Jason Bourne back in the day. And it was the original concept, his body washing ashore, doesn't know his identity.
When did they write those stories? I thought they were just written in the 90s or something.
I don't know. All right, I'm going to blow my nose, so I'm going to turn my microphone off. Somebody says
Put it on. It gives me a reason to hope.
What other Barbers can you remember at this point?
Walters.
Barbara. Oh,
Barbara?
she's gone.
She's
She
gone
died.
before she
Barbara
died.
Walters is dead.
Anyway,
When
You know what? I'm going to throw one out to John right now, real quick. Terry Sweeney from Saturday Night Live.
oh, good question. The gay SNL actor. Oh no. Terry Sweeney. It's Pat.
No,
Right?
no, Terry.
Julia
what was it?
Sweeney is It's Pat.
Yes.
Terry Sweeney was the gay
The
gentleman
blonde,
that
yeah,
played,
the blonde hair from
who played
Chicago.
Nancy
I
Reagan.
believe,
Yeah,
Second
yeah.
City. Yeah.
I believe dead, but I'm not certain.
I want to say
He's
say
alive.
passed away.
Terry Sweeney still with us?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
73.
No.
What's that?
What?
How old?
He's 73.
Oh, that's awesome.
Wow, that's so weird.
I
He's
hope.
got-
I hope Dana and Dave Spade put him on the SNL.
Yeah,
podcast.
I love that show. Actually.
I would love to hear his. Maybe they've tried to get him and he declined. I don't know.
The Born
Kevin Nealon was
Identity
in
was an
town.
ABC movie in 1988
Wow,
There you go.
88 was a long time ago.
with
buddy.
Jacqueline Smith,
Yes.
Anthony Quayle, Donald Moffat, and Denham Elliott.
Donald.
Oh, I love Denham.
Denham Elliott's gone. Marcus Brody. He's no longer with us.
Fantastic. Oh, hello, Indiana. Yeah. Good stuff.
Poor guy.
All right. So next
That it?
week. Yeah, I think so.
I'm going to see the Marvels next weekend.
I am too with Jerry Ordway this Thursday.
I'll wait to see what the critics say.
I don't
Oh,
know
you
when
want to
I'm
come,
happening.
Franco? You want to come?
I don't know. I'm busy. Maybe, possibly. Depends.
Oh, doing what? Watching all the shit TV show?
Oh, you got to go because then then you'll do like a Turficon podcast with Jerry
You
and
should.
Yeah.
You should come with us. Oh,
Unfortunately, I think next week. I'm not positive, but I think The Price is Right is on prime time next week. So
He's gotta be
I may-
with
we
I'll have to
could,
get
we
back
could
to
go early on Thursday and then go to the movie because Jerry likes the early bird special because he's old.
Is that the early bird pizza?
It's very
He got
possible.
mad that I started buying like senior discount tickets for him, and he's like, "What the hell's this?" I go, "Well, you're over 62, and I saved $3." He's like, "Seriously?" I go, "I've been buying senior
would-
tickets, and I'm only 57 because they think I'm old, so I saved $3." He goes, "God, you're cheap." I go, "And I'm $6 richer."
I've
For the
been
pizza.
getting my AARP
What?
benefits for the last 7 or 8 years since I joined, and I am happy to get my senior discounts.
They give you
I
a
am-
free donut too when you go to Dunkin' Donuts.
Mhm.
Yep.
Too. We need that.
Ooh.
Yeah, we don't need that. That's
I'm
true.
gonna
should
make
get
a new
that.
logo for the show card with the AARP logo in the corner now.
Hold it. I'm the oldest of the group.
Are you really?
Yeah,
Is that Canadian?
Wayne
though?
is
That's
like
metric.
83 years old. He looks great.
Yet
Yeah.
he is able to be razor sharp on our
Mhm.
research,
That's
and
because
Yeah,
Don't
I'll
get
be
mad at me
60
when I
before
call him
all
that.
of yous.
Franco's typing. No, Franco's drawing. You're typing. You don't want to know what I'm doing with my hands.
Thanks
I'm
for
not
coming.
wearing any
See you
pants,
next week.
actually. My wife even says, she goes, "Are you going to go put your pants on the podcast?" I go, "They're not going to see." So I've been
all right,
sitting out
now-
with
the
Steve.
Now
the
I know.
Jeffrey
I'm
the
upset.
Jeffrey Tubin attitude of Zoom and StreamYard and everything. I don't need pants. It's fine. All right, everybody. See you next week, and we'll talk more sci-fi, but less Trek. Take it easy.